Hello, Facebook. So I'm bringing a client and other personal trainer onto Facebook Live today because we wanted to talk about being a leader of your own body. So hopefully she's going to get the invite here. Oh my God, this could actually go smoothly. Let's see. Bring them on camera. Oh my goodness. Is this actually gonna work? Hi Jackie, hi Rick. Can't bring Elizabeth on camera. Liz, just remember you do have to be on your mobile device. Hi Jessica. Hi Donna. Some of my clients watching right now. So again, me and Liz are gonna be talking about being a leader of your own body, our own experiences with how we have claimed ownership over our own bodies. Liz, says you're being added right now. I often talk about claiming our body. There's already a guest in this. The guest declined. Hello, so many people coming on. So I often talk about claiming our bodies, claiming over our body, because we're told so much of how we're supposed to look, how we're supposed to train, how we're supposed to do this, versus like coming back and being the leader of our own body and not letting like the bullshit fitness industry tell us and train. I'm going to send this request to Liz again. This is the reason why I have been working in the industry, kind of what I feel like is an uphill battle, because there's so much information on like getting into your skinny jeans and like losing a lot of weight. And sometimes that's great, but a lot of the time it comes from this dysfunctional place of like trying to fit into a norm, trying to fit into a body size that isn't appropriate for us. For example, if I wanted to put on a lot of muscle, like that's not a really natural place for me to be. I can't get like super, super jacked. That's just not who I am. Some people can't get into a size 2 and that's okay. So I was hoping that this Facebook Live would go smoothly and my guest would be able to come on really easily, but technology has other plans. So if I can't get her on here in a minute, it says it's in the process of adding, then I'm gonna have to reboot and invite her back on. Anybody have any comments here about leadership in your own body, stuff you want us to talk about? No answer from guest. So I'm gonna reboot this unless I can try one more time. Otherwise, I'm going to try to reboot this because adding her. Let's see. Lots of viewers on here. So hopefully these are people, Liz, on your side who are coming on. Woo! We got it. Cool. I see you're in the car. Cool. I'm glad we got you on. Was it like not accepting?
It kept telling me that my phone had to be a certain way, and I don't know that.
Yeah, sorry. I try to like make sure so that I know to tell people later on, like, okay, like Facebook is going to be a pain in the ass because XYZ. So now we know. Okay, yeah, like the phone has to be certain orientation. So I was kind of giving them a little synopsis of we were going to be talking about being a leader of your own body, and I was talking about how we often feel we need to. My dog barks. We often feel like we need, I'm just watching him like, dare bark at that bird. How we often feel like we need to conform, right, into a certain standard, and we're not really leading our own body. We're leading somebody else's idea of how we should look or how we should train.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And I know you can expand on that, of like that feeling of like, this is how you're supposed to look. This is how, this is the way your abs are supposed to look or whatever.
Yeah, so I know like in my life I have swung from one extreme to the other, for being overweight to being underweight, and through that process I became very disconnected with my body. I didn't really see it for what it was, didn't appreciate it for what it was, and then after I had my daughter, I think the one thing nobody wants to talk about is pregnancy and childbirth is a very traumatic experience. Everybody wants to talk about how good it is, because trauma sounds negative, but I avoided first for 4 years after having my daughter just because I didn't like what I saw. I felt alien in my own body, and it wasn't until I saw a picture of myself that it like hit me in the face. I knew I was heavy, but I didn't realize how heavy I had let myself get. So I decided to to dive in and take control of that, and had to completely stop comparing myself to other people,
Hmm.
and stop comparing myself to all of the influx of people on Instagram and what fitness magazines say,
Oh
um,
yeah.
because I tried that and it didn't work, and it became extremely frustrating. So I think it's very important for women to understand that your journey is not going to look like everybody else's. It's not one size fits all.
Hmm.
Um, and you really have to dive down into inside yourself, and what gets you through the day, what pushes you forward, because it's not going to be the same for me or for you.
Hmm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Well, and I think it's interesting. Rick said, "Boy, you can be very still for a long time." I think I'm still moving. Um, I think too, it's interesting you talk about the pregnancy and that we don't talk about the trauma of it. And it is trauma to your body, like you're birthing a goddamn human being. But that's amazing in that we kind of criticize ourselves afterwards of like what we look like, right? When we feel guilt and shame about our body or what it looks like after pregnancy, it's like, oh my God, like your body has created another human being, right? And that's not really socially accepted in our culture. Where I think it's, women have always been taught to be um, physically attractive and like pleasing to other people, right? And we constantly get that pressure. And that's, you're right, like it's not a one size fits all, and it's extremely draining and destructive. And I know, like, for me with my clients, I'm always making sure, like, are you coming out of this of a place of like self love, or are you coming out of this place of change out of self hate or like complete loathing of your body and who you are, right?
Yeah, well, because the culture of fitness teaches women that it's punishment. Like you're going in there and you're
I got,
punishing yourself for not exercising enough, or not eating the right things, or not looking like the girl who had a baby and bounced back a month and a half later,
yeah,
just
so
because,
true,
genetics are so much better than the ones you were handed.
right?
Um, and then you add on the exhaustion, and it's not just a physical disconnect. After becoming a mom, there's a mental disconnect. I mean, you're in autopilot for a long time, and nobody wants to talk. Like I said, nobody ever wants to talk about those things, and then they wonder why we struggle and why we get frustrated. And we don't reach out to each other and lift each other up to say it's okay. Everybody goes through that. Even the girl that bounces back gets mentally disconnected after childbirth. It
Yeah.
happens.
um I was reading a book. I keep referencing it on these Facebook lives, but it was a really good book and there's so much potent stuff in it. um it's called Mating in Captivity, and it was about how mothers feel after they have their child, and that they're so much in mother mode that they lose parts of themselves. Like they lose parts of their sensuality and their sexuality, right? Like they stop wanting to engage with sex with their partner. They're just so much in survival mode and making sure that their child is taken care of, and they really get that disconnect of like who they are, like losing parts of their themselves as a woman, right, and as an individual. um, and you're right, like that's not talked about. It's and I know we talk a lot about, I want to mention this too, is like fitness is not just contained to our physical container. Like there's depth to it, right? And when we change our physical self, when we become leaders of our own body, we're becoming leaders of our own life, right? So that's why we're also just, right, weaving in like there's a mental component to this as well, and feeling empowered mentally as well. um, so the physical fitness helped you after your pregnancy.
Yeah, it did. It helped me, and it helped me in ways that I didn't expect. Like I set out to
Yeah.
just lose the pounds, however that was going to work, and I tried all different types of things. And then when I found strength training, and I stopped focusing on the tangible things like how many numbers were being removed from the scale, and
Yeah.
really focused on my body showing up and doing things it had never done before. And it showed me what I was made of on the inside, and it completely transformed my thought process. And I wasn't expecting that around what fitness and strength training should look like and what kind of place it should come from. And it should definitely come from a place of self love. I think you and I talked about it not too long ago, and I've posted about it before. It's hard to create positive change when you're pulling from negative spaces. Um,
Yes. Quote that shit.
all day. I will preach it all day.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to love yourself completely and fully and still want to grow and be better, because it's about presenting your best self. to the world. And when you don't feel like your best self and you're constantly tearing yourself down, it's going to reflect in your work and your relationships with your kids, your partners, everything. And then you get so far down the rabbit hole that you don't know where to
Hmm.
start and pull yourself up on. So you have to start, women have to make themselves a priority, and that's not selfish. It's not selfish when it's coming from a place of self-love.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Jason about this last night of like the difference between selfishness and self-love, and that like most women, we do need to prioritize ourselves more, and we're constantly like giving other people, but we know like when we can show up for ourselves, we show up better for others. Right? And fitness is one modality to do so. And like you're saying, you didn't expect to go through this more mental shift, right? Like these big mindset shifts. Like you were just like, okay, like I'm focused on getting the weight off because, I feel foreign in this body. But there's so much like depth that comes with that, right? And noticing your abilities. I think it's important. Um, we can't get too hung up on the numbers. Even, some people, once they move off of the weight number, they start to move into the performance number. Like I know for me, I was like, oh, like I'm not squatting 150 pounds today. I didn't hit my numbers. I remember I was in Jacksonville. There's a gym on Normandy, and it was like I had to be like tough and rough in that gym. Um, anyway, like that's also dysfunctional. I think it's really important because it'll show up in ways that are discreet. You know, of making sure constantly checking in with yourself. Like, am I coming from a place of love towards myself? Am I coming from a place of prioritizing myself for me? Not trying to please somebody else.
Yeah, because I remember very clearly remembering when the weight came off, and I got to the dress size I wanted to be, and I got to the weight that I wanted to be, and I was just remember sitting there and going, well, now what? Well, now what?
Yes, that's
And
what
then
it
I
is.
did what you did, and I just went balls to the wall, aggressive, masculine. Well, anything you can do, I can do better. And I
Yep.
ended up not only drained mentally, but then I ended up injured. And I ended up in this place where my progress stalled. And I was like, what am I? And I just didn't know what to do. And I felt defeated all over again until,
Hmm.
I reached out to you and we started this new journey of strength and fitness. And it was, I said it a million times and it sounds cliche, but it was life changing for me to be able to wrap my head around the fact that strength doesn't have to be a place of fear. It doesn't have to come from a place of fear. It doesn't have to come from a
Yeah.
place of defense. It can come from a place that I love myself enough to progress and to grow and to move into a body that shows up for me day in and day out.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite sayings, and I repeat this to my clients and friends of mine all the time, is we as women are givers and we give, 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 give.
Hmm.
And you wonder why at the end of the day we're like, why am I tired? Why am I not? But the whole saying, my cup runneth over, what's in the cup is mine. What comes out of the cup is everyone else's. So if I don't fill that cup up first and show up for myself day in and day out, I can't do it for anybody else.
Right. Yeah, that's really true. And it's easy to say, and I think everybody like gets that intellectually, and then like actually putting that in practice
It's hard.
is really challenging. Yeah. It's a lot of deprogramming, right? And like stripping away of like what we've always had these heavy expectations of us, and people telling us you're being selfish because you're doing XYZ, or kids always say, I need you, I need you, I need you, versus allowing our kids to be more independent, right? Like you talk about that with your daughter, like helping her become more self-sufficient so that people don't become dependent on you. I know for me in my last relationship, there was codependency on both sides. Like I'm still exploring codependency. Um, but I was an enabler, right? Because then we start to do that as well. We kind of dig ourselves into this hole and we enable people to take advantage of us in ways that they don't really fully recognize either, right? But we have to allow them, when we set our boundaries, we're demanding more self-respect, we're demanding more respect from them, and it actually makes the relationships better. It makes people more self-sufficient. It shows people how to set their own boundaries and how to take care of themselves more.
Yeah, and I actually was having a conversation about boundaries yesterday with a friend of mine. And he mentioned that, sometimes when we set boundaries that we're not used to, hold on a second, we're not used to, and other people aren't used to, it comes off as very cold. And with
Yeah.
that, you can start to feel guilty and you can start to feel maybe some shame or things that come along with that, because your intent is not to hurt other people, but at some point you have to take responsibility for where you are and what you are doing and how you feel inside, and stop and learn what's yours to carry and what's yours not to carry, and work on
Right.
yourself, and push forward and grow and be the best version of yourself. Leadership is so important in fitness and careers and the home. And I think, and I've said this before too, if you find yourself in a place of leadership, look in your immediate environment. And if you can't find a leader, become a leader. And it's hard.
Hmm.
It's nobody wants to talk about also how hard self growth is, and how personal growth
Oh my God, it's so hard.
is. People look at you, or they look at me, and they're like, I want what you have, or I want to look like you look like. And I tell them, you have 5 years to invest in your time, because it took me 5 years to get here. I didn't just wake up one day and I'm fabulous and fierce.
Hmm.
It's a lot of digging into some really dark and raw places that made me very uncomfortable to get here. And you have to be willing to go there to shed your baggage.
That is 100%. Yeah, you're right. Like we don't talk about the darkness that you have to go through, because there's so much. I have a client, I'm working on mindset with her, and she told me about all this stuff, like this baggage she's holding on from, like things that her father said to her, and things that people have said about her weight, and even just offhanded comments. People don't realize your words have power, right? Like
Absolutely.
even offhanded comments of like, oh, you're gonna eat that, like that really affects people. Even like if they're consciously like, oh, this, if they're consciously like, oh, that doesn't matter, but really like that gets into our psyche. And then when we start to unravel this and we want to grow, like we have to get rid of so much shit of like what people told us, and what people told us about our worth and what we're capable of. And I know we've talked about this at length, is like people will try to bring you down when you're trying to lead, because one, and I wrote a post about this, is it can be threatening, right, to them,
Herd
because
mentality.
predictability is safety, right? And like we're humans, that we're tribalism, right? It's like we need that safety and that predictability, to keep the group good and like swimming together, right? So yeah, it can be very threatening, for people who don't understand what you're doing, and to have to move through that sometimes when you don't feel like you have the support, or you don't feel like people get what you're doing, can be really challenging and defeating. Um, yeah, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one, especially since you have to like take a step back and realize that the majority of the time that people are doing that, especially people who are close to you, it's not coming from a place of like anger or hate, or there's no malicious intent behind it. It's usually
Right.
coming from a place of fear. I love you, so I don't want you to go. And if you're growing and changing and moving up, then I might lose you. And so it's called crabs in a bucket. I've said it a million times. People will pull you down because they don't want to see you walk away, but you kind of have to fight against that, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to look at yourself in the mirror day in and day out and be
Hmm.
happy with the life you're creating for yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody else is going to do it for you.
I saw one entrepreneur, she posted something and she's like, one of the biggest things you can do, one of the most important things to do to move forward, is like not giving a shit what other people think, is really, really important. And like, although people are going to tell you like, why are you doing that? Like, what are you doing? You can't do that, right? Like how many times both of us have heard that. I know people very,
Yeah.
very close to me. It's like, that's not going to work. And I'm like, well, maybe, but I'm going to fucking try. Um, and we screw up a lot, right? Like I've tried
Oh,
things and they've completely fallen apart. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars where I never got a return on investment. Um, and that's okay. Like that's part of the process as well. Um, I don't know what I was running with that, but I think that's important to note too, is that there's a lot of failure, and that you shouldn't be caring what people are going to think. You're going to fail. You're going to screw up. You can't do this perfectly. And that you just have to own that process, because when you're caring about like what that person in high school thought of you, like what, you're gonna let that individual all the way, your ex-boyfriend from 10 years ago, to tell you or to dictate how you live your life now. And again, like that's sometimes subconscious, right? Like we're not always aware of where we're being stuck. That's why coaching helps, right? Is to kind of pull back those layers, and that's why journaling helps, and meditation. But that stuff is there. Like there's a lot of unraveling constantly. Like I'm still, the inner work never ends, right?
It never ends. And as soon as you stop working on it, it's so easy to fall back into old habits. And just as often
Mm-hmm.
as people will say things that you try to own, you also have to be very aware of your own self-talk, because that is going to be your biggest downfall, and that requires a lot of retraining of thought process. Just like we retrain our bodies to learn new movement patterns, we have to
Yeah,
retrain our brains to think a certain way and to see things a certain way and
for sure.
find a different perspective to approach things. Otherwise you're going to end up in the same place over and over and over again, just like with your yo-yo diets and all the things you read. And just know that if it's on the internet, folks, it doesn't mean it's true.
It's a public service announcement there. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I agree. It's you're creating new roads, new path, right? Like talk about that with the nervous system when you're learning a new pattern. Like you're creating new roads to learn something new. You're creating a new path, and the same thing with your brain. Like you have to create a new path. And you know they talk about things like speaking positive affirmations and things like that, which can help. Motivational quotes. But I think also I almost posted this today. I was talking about fantasy and that we need to fantasize more, and that fantasy is not just play. Like we're told a lot, like don't dream, right? Like
All the
dreamers
time.
are for whatever. I don't know the quote. There's a bunch of quotes about dreamers are lazy or whatever. But fantasy and dreaming and creating visions, like I often say, like Jason makes fun of me because I'll just be like, I just want to be in my bed for a couple hours. I'm just going to be in my bed. What I'm doing is I'm dreaming. I'm fantasizing. I'm like envisioning myself in all these different roles. And I think that's really important, is to kind of fantasize and step into these roles as if you are already. So as if you're already embodying that person, I think is really, really important to actually manifest that. You know, like
Absolutely.
you're creating that environment in the safety of your minds, where like there is no threat of actual danger or rejection, right? Like you're just here, but you're able to experience that and experience like what it feels like to be a different person. And then you can move forward and get out of your fantasy and be like, okay, like now how can I bring that into reality? Like, do I need to hire a coach? Do I need to join a new course? Like, do I need to get certified? Right?
Yeah, you have to have vision before you can have action. If you can't grab something,
Exactly.
if you can't see it, close your eyes and walk around your house and try to find your keys and see how well that works out. Like if you can't
Yeah.
see it, you can't put your hands on it. So it's definitely important to not only envision it, but then keep that vision in front of you at all times and really
Mm-hmm.
hammer it into your mind, into your brain, whether it's a vision board or whether it's, positive affirmations that you write on your mirror with eyeliner. My mirror looks crazy from time to time. But I have to constantly remind myself of where I'm trying to go. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
everything else in life is going to distract me from it. You have to have laser focus to get fitness goals,
Yeah.
career goals, anything accomplished.
Yeah. The clarity. And I'm just going to loop it back around as we the topic, this usually happens with the topic of leadership of your own body, right? And we're talking really about leadership of your own life. But I think for both of us, we've talked about when we became leaders of our own body, like when we took control over owning our bodies, like owning our strength, claiming our space back. Both of us started in a more aggressive way. Like mine was like, don't fucking touch me. Like I'm going to be strong. I'm actually taking my first Krav Maga class tonight,
Oh,
which
I
I'm
didn't say
nervous
that.
as hell. I'm so nervous. But I'm like, okay, I need to go into this class without like being dominating and like, all right, like I'm just here to claim my space. Like I don't need to be ego girl here. Like, um, anyway, what was my point? Oh, because leading with your body also can lead you into different areas. Like when we started here, it's like, oh, like this is what I can accomplish in the gym. Like this is what I can accomplish with my physical strength. Like where else can I apply, my discipline and my consistency and my dedication to myself? Like where can I apply that in other areas? Like it's
Yeah,
just this snowball effect.
it definitely is a snowball effect because, like I said, it wasn't something that I was expecting. And when I really got in the gym and I was really focused on making this physical change, I didn't expect. I'm like, well, I can do this if I take this same philosophy and apply it here, or take the same philosophy and apply it there. And then I'm just more confident in general, like, because I feel good and I look good and I
Yeah.
move good and I'm not achy and I'm not, constantly wondering, is the fat hanging out the back of my bra? Is my cellulite showing through my leggings? Like, you kind of shed those types of things, and you're able to really move forward. Even in just fitness training. I mean, gym intimidation is a big thing, especially for women. And to walk into a gym, especially, when if you live in a small town like I do, there's a lot of guys around. And it intimidates us. And it's not their intent. That's for us to, that's our own insecurities seeping out, saying, well, I can't
For
walk in there.
sure.
I mean, he's over there squatting 300 pounds. What am I going to
Yeah.
do? Not knowing what you're doing, but you build confidence, and then you start to own your space, and you start to own who you are, and it becomes this beautiful thing. Like, I don't even know how to
Yeah.
describe
Well, and
describe it.
it's hard to like, it's hard to really share that because I said this before, like, I wish I could just like bottle it up and just give it to somebody of like, look, like, this is what working on your strength in your body does. Like, this is what it can open up. But it's so hard for people to get that when they're so focused on like, but I just want to look good naked. And that's great. Like, we all want to look good naked, but there's just so many deeper levels that get hit when you're like really in it and you're able to really absorb yourself in the process. And when you're talking about like, worrying about like, is my fat hanging out here? Like, what do I look like in this shirt? Like, how much mental space that clears up when you don't have those constant thoughts of like, what do I look like? Like, my ass probably looks too fat in these pants. Like, oh my God, or worrying about what you eat, right? Like, for me, nutrition was huge. I was constantly thinking about food, constantly thinking about what I was going to eat, planning my meals. Like, when I could let that go, when I started just owning my body and doing intuitive eating, for example, oh my sweet God, like, I had so much more mental capacity to actually pursue things outside of myself and like be more of service and value to the world, you know?
Yeah, no, that's exactly the way it worked out for me too. And it's just, like you said, we take up all this mental space holding on to insecurities, and sometimes it does just take the step towards finding the confidence by feeling and looking better and know it. And it's not about,
Yeah.
do other people like the way I look. It's about being able to look in the mirror and like what I look, and like what I see. Um, because I can hear 9 million times a day, I'm pretty, from 7,000 people. But if I don't believe that, then it's not going to matter. And I'm still going to stay
Right.
reeling in that space. And, and then I never bust out of it. So I started to focus out on what I wanted to change about my physical appearance.
Yeah.
And I could care less that, a girl walks in and her boobs are 3 times bigger than mine. That's okay. I didn't care. I had to let those types of things go, because Lord
Yeah.
knows, ladies, the first thing to go in your fitness journey is the girls. They go into hiding, and they just they
But
run
hey, then you
away.
could go braless
You know, you would think
eventually.
that. Some of us are
Depends.
still growing and changing and embracing those things. But just, you just have to let go of those comparisons and really focus on, this is what I have, this is who I am. I was given this body and this mind and this soul for a purpose that has nothing to do with anybody else. So how
Hmm.
do I make the best version I can for me, and how do I enjoy walking in my skin?
I think too, um, it's really about liking yourself too. Like, that will start to exude into your body image. We're so focused on body image, body image, body image. It's like, do you like yourself? Like, do you have integrity to yourself? Like, are you staying in line with your values? Do you even know what your values are as a person? Right? Um, do, and that's why I really like you talked about like a philosophy around weightlifting, but right, like, you have a philosophy of like, I'm showing up for myself. Like, that builds integrity towards yourself. That builds an inner confidence that you can't get from other people. And it's not healthy to depend on other people, right, to validate your worth and validate your appearance. I'm constantly working through insecurities still, like, and they're really freaking deep. Like, it's really hard
Yeah.
to see something. Like, um, I won't go into personal details, but it's something that's like very prominent right now, of like working through different insecurities and my own self-worth, and like continuing to build that through strength. Like, I actually use strength as a modality to feel better and be present in my body, and to reflect on everything that I've done and what I stand for and what I'm proud of. That starts to kind of go outward and affect your appearance as well, and allows you to own your appearance as well.
Agreed. And and it's the same thing with strength. My strength practice is where I go for me to be able to unpack and unbaggage, and it's the one
Yeah.
place where nobody is requiring anything from me but me. And
Yeah.
it's all about me. And those 45 minutes when I walked in that gym, it's all about me and what I have to do and what I came to accomplish, what my goals are. And I kind of forgot where I was running off with this now too, but it's yeah, and you
It's
have those insecurities inside, and they really are. If you're constantly seeking outside validation, you will go hungry for the rest of your life. You will hunger
yeah.
for validation for the rest of your life, and you have to
Oh my
just
God,
kind
yeah.
of turn inward. And when I step in that gym and I step in front of that kettlebell or that barbell, nothing else matters but me and my body and me being fully present in that moment to accomplish what I came to accomplish.
Yeah, that's why I used to always call it moving meditation. And again, like it's so hard, I think, for some people to grasp that and be like, what the hell are they talking about? If you haven't entered it, I had a conversation with another client who's going to be a personal trainer, and we were talking about the stages, right, that you go through when you're first starting a fitness journey. Like, it's okay to just be focused on the weight in the beginning, but keep an open mind. Like, understand, like, there is a greater depth and a greater meaning behind working on your body and working on your strength aside from what you look like, and you have to be open to exploring that. And it helps from coming from that place of self-love, right, and coming from that place of I'm looking to grow on a bigger scale here. I'm looking to grow personally, not just in my body. Do you see
Exactly.
Laura's comment?
I do. Hi, Laura. We love you too.
I don't know what time it is. What time is it?
It's like 11:50 ish.
Okay. I'm reading if there's any other comments here. Does anybody want to add anything here about their own situation? Judy said, she wrote a comment here. I see now that by having a successful weight loss and becoming strong at the gym, I put such a burden of continuing to please and impress my trainer. Ooh, so big. And some people like that of like, I want to impress my trainer, keeps them accountable. I did that with my business coach before of like, I want to please them. There's a level of unhealthy behavior there, right? Like that can help us stay more accountable, but also
Yeah, we always
like I
want
do
to
the
seem
same
like
thing
we're
in my
put
partnership.
together.
You what? I think you broke up.
We always want to appear like we've got it all together, like we're holding it all together.
Yes.
And it's hard to create
Oh my
change.
God.
Sometimes you just have to be completely transparent and just be like, today sucks, and let's move on.
Yeah, true, true, true. Inspire the gym members that knew my story that became separated from my own health and self. The anger and frustration of not being able to continue also made the injuries worse. Yeah, so true. And Judy and I just talked yesterday about injuries. I'm trying to understand how to progress and afraid to lose my progress and new self I hardly know. That's really hard, especially when you feel like you've kind of fallen backwards,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Of like from an injury, right? Like you've had injuries. I have a chronic back injury. I'm constantly trying to manage. My hormones made me stop working out for 3 months, and I felt like I lost a huge part of my identity, right? I think of those situations as opportunities to get to know yourself a little bit better and to try different things, right? So like Judy, for example, I gave you some suggestions on what to do because you can't do presses and get-ups right now, right? So just being able to, we're getting a lot of hearts from somebody right now. But look at all those hearts. Thank you. But being able to find other ways, right, to progress. So it just gives us more opportunities to play. Think about it that way. Like it always sucks to get injured. It always sucks to regress. It sucks when we have bad days. But like, what are you taking away from that? Right?
Yeah,
Like, what meaning are you taking away from that?
yeah, because I've been injured a lot, and especially with my shoulders and stuff. But honestly, looking back on it, having that injury with my shoulder and taking a step back and really understand. Every time I think I have it licked, it rears its ugly head, and I just think of it as my body is telling me that something's not right, and the approach that I'm taking is not right, and it needs to be tweaked.
Yeah.
It needs to be. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not something that I need to push through. It's something that my body is telling me needs attention, and I need to take a step back and really
Yeah.
focus on what I need to tweak and change so I can continue to move forward. Otherwise, I'm just going to get defeated and deflated and say, I can't do this, and then I circle right back around to the start.
Yeah. Well, and you learn to do things better through injury or through regression, right? I was just thinking the other day, I mean, I'm quite good at helping people with back pain because I have personally dealt with it, right? Like all of the things that I've personally experienced. I talked to a client last night about hormones and like telling her all about different thyroid because I went through thyroid hell, like cortisol dysregulation, like adrenal fatigue, right? All that bullshit that was so frustrating, expensive, time consuming. I couldn't train. I was exhausted. I had no libido. My PMS, like, wanted to die. But like those experiences were so good. Like I'm able to now, like I'm constantly when I struggle with something, when something comes up, my breakup last summer, like that was fucking hard. And like that day, I try to circle it around, and I'm like, well, how can I learn something from this and create value for somebody else based from my suffering? And I think that's how a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we start our journey, right? Like you suffering with your weight and like your discomfort and your alienation in your body, like that was your greatest lesson. Like that was your greatest gift to help serve other people. So it's just a way when we regress and injuries and things like that of like, well, now I know how to help somebody else with it, or now I know that I want to continue to learn more to help somebody else with this.
And then it also builds an internal library of resources. So when these things come back around again, we have something to tap into that continues to push us forward and grow, and we don't stay stuck. Like it's like, okay, so I've been here before. This feels very familiar. Let me go in. What did I learn? What did I grow from? And let me go back and use that and remind myself that, you know, it's not the end of the world, and I can keep pushing. And it's not something that's going to take me down and take me out of the game.
Yeah, like you need to have those periods of where you're feeling weak to know how strong you are, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
I think it's Laura saying that's the story of my life. I know, Laura, you're strong as hell.
Yeah, probably one of the strongest women I know.
I know, for sure. Okay, so I don't see any more comments. I'm gonna wrap us up because it's about noon.
Yeah, it's right about noon.
Hustle, put some clothes on, and get to my other clients.
I need to eat.
But as I'm sitting outside, so I'm like sweating. I'm just in a sports bar right now. So I think this conversation went well. I think we went in a lot of different angles. I figured we would because we're on the same level. And guys, Liz, if you want to add her on Facebook here, she is also a personal trainer of New World Iron, and you are doing a free month of small group coaching locally. So yours is in McClenny, so near Jacksonville?
Yes. It's about 35
east
miles west. It's west, like between Jacksonville and Lake City.
Okay. So if you guys are near McClenny, she's doing a free month of small group coaching for women, and you're actually hitting upon some of the pieces that we talked about. So like you're going over a little bit of mindset in the coaching. It's 3 days a week, beginner fundamentals of fitness, right? Because the fundamentals are important. Like we're talking about, you can't just like rush into, you know, your end self, your ideal self, right? Like you have to start from the fundamentals. You have to start from like, let's learn how to squat well, and let's learn how to stabilize your trunk well and use your hips well, right?
Right.
All those beginning pieces are really important, even for people who are seasoned. I mean, I was lifting heavy things for years before I was like, shit, like I don't know how to stabilize my abs at all.
Yeah, because I was doing it completely wrong. Nobody ever explained it the right way to me.
Yeah, because people hear cues. Like I know I had a CrossFit client, and she's like, yeah, they said pack your shoulders, and like I didn't understand what that meant.
Yeah,
nobody actually explained it to her.
Suck in and suck your belly in and hold it, and that's still not. That's like not core bracing.
No, like it's not. Yeah. So anyway, so you're going to be covering like what it really means to stabilize your core, what it means to like move properly and move well, so that you have a good foundation to get strong, and to continue with your fitness journey. So guys, that starts May 14th.
May 14th, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7 to 8.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And I only have 4 spots left, ladies. Only 4 spots.
If that, because you probably have your calls.
Yeah, I still have calls to make today, but as we stand right now, there's 4 spots.
Yeah.
Not been claimed.
You guys got to hustle on that, because it's you got a ton of applicants coming in. So you guys got to hustle on that. If you're local to her, if you know somebody local, then tag them. But guys, add Liz, and we'll add, if you want to add the form for them to fill out.
Okay.
Like the application form, just put that in the comments of this when we sign off. But yeah.
This is fun.
Comments, guys? I know. Yeah, that's what everybody says. Like, oh, I like Facebook Live. I'm like, I'm gotten pretty used to it at this point. I like the conversations. I like the candidness of just letting things fly. And I knew we'd be able to go off on tangents with this one because we both have lived it, experienced it, and are assisting other people in the same journey. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna tap out. I don't see any more comments. We've had a great little gathering of listeners, so hopefully people watching the recording are going to benefit from this as well. If you guys want to add extra comments when you're listening to the recording, do so, and we'll reach out. So it was good having you, Liz. I think I will chat tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and we should do this again.
Cool. Yeah, I love doing these Facebook Lives. I'm down for that.
Fantastic.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.